this Sunday night when Carney meets Trump. The Prime Minister heads to Washington to talk trade and tariffs as auto and steel industries warn of mounting job losses.
We don't want to see further concessions.
The United States on thin ice.
We gotta unite working people against this fascist authoritarian regime.
The mass protests after the White House deploys more troops to American cities for its immigration crackdown. Schools out. Alberta's 51,000 teachers prepare to hit the picket lines. Plus, Blue Jays buzz. Toronto gambles in Game 2 with a rookie move.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Prime Minister heads to Washington tomorrow for his second high-stakes face-to-face with the U.S. President. Tuesday's meeting at the White House comes as the Canadian economy is being battered by Donald Trump's trade war. Pressure is mounting on Mark Carney to find an off-ramp from U.S. tariffs hammering Canadian steel, aluminum, and auto industries, among others. Nathaniel Dove reports on the prospects for a breakthrough.
We've seen probably about 1,000 layoffs of our members, primarily in the steel industry.
The U.S. tariffs are exacting a heavy toll, Canadian unions warn.
All of our plants, particularly the assembly plants, have been impacted in some form or another.
Getting U.S. President Donald Trump to lift or lighten the tariffs will surely be one of the topics discussed when the Prime Minister returns to the White House this week. But Mark Carney's first trip in May yielded no discernible results. So economic and political pressure is mounting.
He said that he would end the tariffs, and they have only gotten worse. But we want to see a big win.
There is some evidence Trump's plan to bring production back to the U.S. is working. Bloomberg reports Stellantis is investing billions in the States, while an Ontario plant remains closed. And GM is moving some production from another Ontario plant to Indiana. An economist says U.S. automakers are seeing higher costs, but that doesn't mean Trump will yield.
It's always hard to look at this and try to apply a purely rational lens to President Trump's tariff policies. Some of it, I think, is just quite frankly, President Trump likes tariffs.
The minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade said Friday his priorities are clear.
Obviously, to defend Canada's economic and security interests, to strengthen the Canadian economy.
Dominic LeBlanc stating that includes not accepting a tariff on all goods in exchange for the U.S. dropping sectoral levies. The unions, though, so affected by the trade war, want Canada to maintain leverage.
We want to make sure that we are able to fight back when we need to. We don't want to see further concessions.
That may mean limiting exports. It may mean stockpiling things in Canada, like critical minerals. It may mean a lot of things.
Unifor and United Steelworkers say no deal is better than a bad deal. They also say they'll consider some progress towards removing tariffs a success for Tuesday's meeting. Jeff?
Nathaniel Dove in Toronto. Thanks, Nate. Protests are erupting across the U.S. against President Trump's plans to send troops to a growing list of American cities. The White House says the move is needed to crack down on crime and illegal immigration. And as Candice Cole reports, the tensions have now turned violent.
From Chicago to Portland to Memphis, demonstrators taking to the street fighting back against immigration enforcement and National Guard deployments to cities President Trump has characterized as war zones.
They're driving out the neighborhood and throwing tear gas out the window!
As they're leaving, they're throwing tear gas.
In Chicago, tensions flared after Border Patrol agents shot a woman they claim was armed and part of a group that was ramming cars into ICE vehicles. Officials now calling for an investigation into the violence they say is being escalated by ICE agents.
They have not shown the need to go and terrorize families in the middle of the night, sleep-locking kids, getting people naked in the middle of the street. Is that public safety?
In Portland, a federal judge has temporarily blocked Trump's plans to deploy troops there, saying there's no evidence recent demonstrations qualify as a rebellion.
And today's ruling halts what appears to be the president's attempt to normalize the United States military in our cities.
Trump said Sunday he hadn't yet seen the order, but told reporters,
Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists, the governor, the mayor, the politicians are petrified for their lives. And you have a judge like that, that judge ought to be ashamed of him.
But in an apparent workaround, California Governor Gavin Newsom says Trump has activated 300 of his National Guard troops that are on their way to Oregon, a move Newsom says he'll fight in court. And in Memphis, hundreds of activists joined a student-led protest against troop deployments and Elon Musk's massive data center in the city. The ramped-up presence of federal law enforcement comes just days after Trump told top military brass to use U.S. cities as a training ground, saying the U.S. is, quote, under invasion from within. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
In the Middle East, negotiators for Hamas and Israel are heading to Egypt in a bid to approve Trump's proposed peace plan for Gaza. Indirect talks between both sides begin tomorrow, and delegates from the U.S. will also be involved. Now, despite U.S. President Trump's calls for Israel to stop bombing Gaza during negotiations, Israeli strikes have continued over the last few days, killing dozens. Under Trump's plan, all Israeli hostages would be released and Israel's military would leave Gaza. Multiple ceasefire attempts have failed since the war in Gaza began 2 years ago this week. In Ukraine, at least 5 people were killed today as Russia launched 500 drones and more than 50 ballistic missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says civilian infrastructure was targeted. 4 of the deaths were in the western city of Lviv, near the Polish border, which had been considered a relative safe haven from the fighting in the east. Well, turning to news here at home now, parents across Alberta are scrambling to make alternate arrangements with a province-wide teachers' strike set to begin tomorrow. 51,000 teachers in Alberta are preparing to walk off the job for the first time in that province's history. Negotiations have been deadlocked for over a month. Global's Jacqueline Cusey joins us now. So, Jacqueline, any hope of a last-minute deal?
Jeff, thousands of people took to the steps of the Alberta legislature on Sunday after a deal has not been struck between the ATA and the province with a new contract. Now, the latest offer, 90% of the teachers who voted rejected the latest offer. That would have meant a 12% pay hike over the next 4 years, and including a promise to hire 3,000 more teachers. The Alberta Teachers Association says that's not enough. Now, on Thursday, Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaides said it's not fair that more than 700,000 students across public, separate, and francophone schools will bear the brunt of this walkout. On Friday, the province says a formal letter has been given to the ATA asking them to bring creative solutions to the group and is waiting for a response. ATA President Jason Schilling says since Friday, the ATA has come back to the table with the province with preliminary talks, but the strike will still happen on Monday and schools will not be open. For students, they say the unknown is scary.
I'm nervous, but I definitely know this has to happen if stuff is going to get better.
Get loud, like we are today, and stay loud, because we need that support for government to recognize what they need to do for education.
Now, Schilling says if a deal is struck in this next week, it would take at least another week for teachers to vote on that deal to potentially get back into classrooms. But at this point, there is no sign that that can happen anytime soon. Jeff?
Jacqueline Cusey in Edmonton. Thanks, Jacqueline. And turning to another labor dispute at Canada Post, the union representing 55,000 postal workers says there is no end in sight after the Crown Corporation's latest contract offer. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says the new proposal removes a previously offered signing bonus and could lead to job cuts and post office closures. This labor dispute has dragged on for over a year. As Johnny James reports, some small businesses have had enough.
As the Canada Post strike hits day 10, no resolutions are on the horizon. Sean Oldenburg, president of the Fredericton-Ormeau branch of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, says communication is at a disconnect, and that Canada Post did not talk directly with the union for the 45 days prior to the latest offer on Friday.
They have not been dealing with us. They've been dealing with the government for these reviews and to get it to go their way.
CUPW says the offer is virtually the same as the previous one in May, but with new rollbacks, including the removal of job security, job cuts, and the removal of previously offered signing bonuses.
It is horrible. They are so far off track and not taking Canadians' needs into account.
Oldenburg adds that even if a deal was to be struck, that Canada Post is skipping the important step of a public mandate review.
They just keep stepping back service for Canadians with no regard for what people want. And it needs to be open to the public.
The Postal Service said in a statement on Friday that the new offers are, quote, within the limit of what the corporation can afford while maintaining good jobs and benefits for employees over the long term. However, the Canadian Federation for Independent Business is sounding alarm bells, saying that 13% of Canadian small businesses stopped using Canada Post after last year's work stoppage, and nearly 2/3 said they would if there was another. Chad McGarity owns Fredericton's Warehouse Barbershop, among several other businesses, and has converted away 90% of his shipping.
I had to bail out another company that I actually acquired because they were going under because of the strike last year.
As the persisting strikes leave Canada Post unreliable.
The past 3 in a short period of time, it really hurts local businesses, but also livelihoods of people that are trying to work within the businesses.
The CUPW says they will speak further after a full review of the latest offer is complete. Johnny James, Global News, Fredericton.
Parliamentary elections in Syria coming up. Syrians head to the polls for the first time since the collapse of the Assad regime. But how genuine is the election? Torrential rains triggered deadly landslides and flash flooding in Nepal, where at least 47 people have been killed since Friday. The capital, Kathmandu, is completely cut off. Swollen rivers have spilled their banks, submerging roads in and out of the city. That severe weather is expected to last until tomorrow. In Syria, polls have closed in that country's first parliamentary election since dictator Bashar al-Assad was overthrown last year, an important test for the country's new leadership as it tries to prove it can move from revolution to governments. But as Mike Armstrong reports, there's some skepticism over the unusual voting process.
It's an election Syria's new leadership says it's meant as a start. The voting Sunday wasn't open to millions of citizens, but instead to only several thousand specially selected electors. This member of the Electoral College says too many Syrian cities have been destroyed and too many people are displaced. Having wider elections still isn't possible. Well, what the country is doing instead is supposed to be temporary, selecting a 210-member parliament that will sit for 30 months. Syria's president visited a polling station and called rebuilding the country a collective effort. Ahmed El-Shara says the election is a way of moving forward the quickest way possible. Al-Shara's rebel offensive toppled the Assad regime in December. Bashar al-Assad fled Syria after he and his father before him ruled the country for more than half a century. Al-Shara has spent the months since trying to rebrand himself from an Islamist militant to political statesman. He's framed his movement as a national unity government. This election is very much top-down. Al-Shara appointed an 11-member committee in June. It then appointed subcommittees, and those bodies then selected the 6,000 electors voting Sunday. They're picking 2/3 of the parliament. The rest will be appointed by Al-Shara. This election doesn't include regions not controlled by government forces. It also doesn't include Syrians outside the country. There are estimates about 12 million Syrians were displaced by the 14-year civil war, about half the population. The government has said it would like to let Syrians abroad vote, but when conditions allow. Critics say that proposal is basically symbolic, more about projecting legitimacy than an actual plan. Armstrong Global News, Montreal.
Targeting cancer from the inside out. Coming up, the Canadian doctors testing a new treatment for kidney cancer. Thousands of people across this country put their best foot forward today for a great cause. The Canadian Cancer Society's annual Run for the Cure helps to raise money for breast cancer research and support services. Elizabeth Zogalis reports.
Some ran for themselves, others for a family member or friend. But the message is clear. Get screened, get tested, advocate for yourself.
Let's push the research, let's push for as much as we can and spread this love and awareness.
Stephanie DeBacco participated in her first run for the cure on Sunday. She was just 28 years old when she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
If you catch it early, you're going to live a long, happy life. So catch it early. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth the pain that you have to go through. I caught it a little later. I didn't catch it as fast as I wanted to, and I had to fight for 2 years to get to the finish line.
A new report recommends lowering the eligibility age to 45 from 50, bringing the province in line with the rest of the country.
Early detection saves lives. I can't express it anymore. The sooner you go, whether you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s, early, get it out there. Test yourself.
The Canadian Cancer Society recommends women in all age groups should get familiar with their breast tissue with a self-exam every month. Many women find an irregularity on their own.
Please go do your checkups, such as manually, or go see your doctor. It's very important.
Many women participating in Sunday's event say they have experienced firsthand the difficulties of getting screened.
My doctor sent me to get a mammogram, and because I was sent at 29, they refused me because I'm not yet 30, and it's a huge barrier in order to get one. I still haven't got my mammogram yet.
Experts warn lowering Quebec's screening age won't come without obstacles, mainly due to a lack of resources. But that isn't stopping Sunday's participants from continuing to spread awareness.
We have to talk about it. I have a friend that's 20 years old that has like cancer, stage 4 breast cancer.
Since 1992, the event has raised over $500 million to fund breast cancer research and patient support. Elizabeth Zogalis, Global News, Montreal.
One of those fundraising events was held in the city of London, Ontario, where researchers are looking at a new way to treat kidney cancer. As Catherine Ward explains, the technique involves targeting cancer from the inside.
This new approach is looking to use radiation therapy that targets the cancer from inside the body. This method has already been used to treat liver cancer, and doctors say it could help kidney cancer patients who aren't eligible for surgery. Most of the time, kidney cancer is treated with surgery, and doctors go in and remove some or all of the affected organ. This phase 2 trial takes a different, minimally invasive approach using tiny radiation-filled glass beads. The treatment involves injecting the beads directly into the blood vessels feeding the cancer.
Little radioactive beads that are just a fraction of a millimeter in size, and those basically float down through the artery and get lodged into the blood vessels that are supplying that tumor. They basically just sit there, and as they slowly decay, they release their radiation in a very small area right around it, traveling only about 2 millimeters up to a maximum of 1 centimeter. So we get some patients who are maybe a little older, frailer, may have other comorbidities or other issues that would preclude them from getting surgery. So right now, there are a few options for them as far as therapy that's effective, and so we're looking to see whether this could potentially serve that population.
To date, 2 patients have been treated and 3 more have been enrolled in the trial. Doctors say they are hopeful about the possibilities and should have results within the coming months. Catherine Ward, Global News, Toronto.
A big swing. Up next, the Blue Jays roll the dice on a rookie.
How do I make vegan banana bread?
You don't!
That is Canadian Veronica Slowikowska making her debut yesterday on Saturday Night Live. The comedian and actor is from Barrie, Ontario. She's among several new additions for the famous sketch show, which is entering its 51st season. This also marks the first time a Canadian cast member has been hired for SNL since way back in 1994. Toronto Blue Jays fans were buzzing after that big win against the New York Yankees yesterday. The Jays crushed the Yankees 10-1 in the team's first American League Division Series playoff game. And tonight, fans heading into the stadium were feeling confident for a repeat, and for good reason. The Jays got out to an early lead and never looked back, winning Game 2 in front of a rowdy home crowd. Our Eric Sorensen is outside Rogers Centre in Toronto. So Eric, Blue Jays fans put their faith in a rookie pitcher tonight, and it paid off.
Jeff, after sending out their best pitcher, 13-year veteran Kevin Gausman for Game 1, in the second game, the Blue Jays took a very different approach and a gamble. Trey Savage was on the mound, not only a rookie, but someone that many Blue Jays fans had never heard of 1 month ago.
Savage had to climb through the Blue Jays' entire minor league system until he was called up in mid-September. This was only his 4th major league start ever. It injected additional drama into Game 2 of the series. His unusually high overhand pitching angle, something the Jays hoped would give the Yankees trouble. And did it ever? Savage no-hit the Yanks through 5 1/3 innings, striking out 11. And for the second game in a row, double-digit scoring by the Blue Jays, led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s grand slam. The Jays have the backing of more than 40,000 fans in the stadium, raucous support that the players say has helped them win games. And television audiences have risen steadily through the season, and playoff baseball could break records.
With a victory in this game, the Blue Jays are now in charge of this series. They can win it in New York either Tuesday or Wednesday. If a 5th game is necessary, it will be played back here in Toronto on Friday. Jeff?
Eric Sorensen in Toronto. Thanks, Eric. I wore my lucky blue tie. That is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Jeff Semple, and sticking with that Blue Jays spirit, tonight's Your Canada is the Canadian flag on the Rogers Centre field in Toronto. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great night.